I have been looking forward to this episode. Today, I'm talking to a Palestinian American businessman who, after 40 years of entrepreneurial work, is turning his attention to managing the most ambitious Palestinian media project in the United States. It's located in Woodbridge, Connecticut, and actually has already extended into Scotland. So going international. There's so much exciting news that they're going to share today. I'm talking about Palestine Museum US. You're going to hear so much about history and culture, must-see events. I look forward to the weekend Zooms, and since I'm across the country, I join others from at least 40 other countries and watch these incredible Palestinian films, documentaries, and talks. And they're quite special, sometimes extremely, they're powerful and emotional. And I'm joined with people that really have the same passion, beliefs, and values. And it just really creates a very special community, which you're going to hear about. So I am looking forward to talking today, this episode. My guest is Faisal Saleh. Hello, Faisal. It's so nice to have you today.
Hi, great to be with you. Thank you.
Um, I have been so grateful for all the online that you do with the Palestine Museum USA, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about you, Faisal, and where you come from and how did the museum come to be. So thank you
Great.
for all that you guys do, because I'm learning so much.
Thank you. You came to the right place.
Good. I know. I recommend it for people too, because the movies, the screenings, the talks, the conversations are
Yeah.
incredible. But
Did
tell
you
me about
see
like your
uh
background.
yeah, I did a post on Instagram early this morning, and we had a really great woman came and donated a Palestinian thobe to the museum. And I said, ask her if she minds we do like a 1 minute video like for social media. She said, no, by all means. I said, well, do you mind putting the dress on? And we could I could do the video with with you wearing the dress and saying, I'm donating this dress.
Oh, wow.
And she said, oh, that's fine. So we ended up doing that. It looks really good. So you check it out when you're
I
after
know.
this.
I'm like eager to do it now, but I'll wait. We'll
Yeah,
talk.
yeah. It looks beautiful. It was only like 20 seconds, but it's got a lot of views already, I'm sure, by now.
I love the tatris, and I work with also people bringing tatris in and selling it. And the movies that you've shown, um, about the history is what got me even more in love with it. But we'll talk about that. But let's talk about where are you from? And I want to
Okay.
know about your background and family and history.
hmm Yes. My family comes from a village called Selma. Selma was about 5 kilometers from Jaffa. And in 1948, they were refugees. They were expelled, and their village was mostly bulldozed and destroyed by the Israelis. And they changed its name from Salama to Kfar Shalem to make it look like it's not a Palestinian place. Um, and after that, my family ended up in the West Bank, in the town of El Bire, which is right next to the Ramallah. They're almost one contiguous city now. My father did not want us to live in a refugee camp, so he rented a one room from one of the local women in El Bire. And we lived in that room for a few years. And there were 13 people at some point. I was born a few years later, and I was born in that room also. And
Wow.
during the day, we would roll up the mattresses and stack them against the wall. And then in the evening, they would unroll them and the room would turn into a big, huge bedroom.
I've
And that
seen
went
that.
on for a long time.
Yeah. I went and visited Jerusalem where my dad is from, and I saw their home, just one room, and that's what they said. They laid like this,
Hmm.
and then
Yep.
like there was just a little stove and then a bathroom elsewhere. Is that how it
Well,
was?
the bathroom was outside at the time,
Yeah.
not because of our room, but because at that point, a lot of people had their bathrooms outside. They called them outhouses for a reason.
Okay. Yeah. And then how old were you when you left there or
Yeah. Well, I went to public schools in the Ramallah, Albira area, and I finished the 11th grade when I left for the US, and that was in 1969. I arrived in the US in June of 69. That was the year of Woodstock, and a couple of months later was the landing on the moon in July, July 23rd, I think it was.
was
So
that like culture shock for you?
it was. That was the first time I left home. I had never been anywhere else other than, some of the local cities and towns there. And it was the first time I left the country, and first time I got on an airplane even. The flight I got on went from the Lud airport in Palestine, or what we call the occupied Palestine, and landed in Zurich. It was a Swiss Air flight, and in Zurich we changed planes and flew to Chicago, and I landed in Chicago. That was the first part of the U.S. that I saw first. I had a brother at the time living in Chicago, and I stayed with him until another brother of mine, who I was going to stay with for a while, was driving with his wife from Seattle to Connecticut, having finished his master's degree at the University of Washington. And I waited till they drove by, and then I rode with them to Connecticut. And I stayed in Connecticut for the summer, then went to public schools in Pennsylvania in Bucks County, a Quaker school called the George School. And they had given me a 1 year scholarship to finish my high school there. And it was a boarding school. And it was a very nice school, really. And the faculty were very kind, very nurturing. Some of the students were a little tough to deal with, You know how it is in schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, it's
And like
not
what was
easy.
that like being from I know Palestine, like it's a whole different culture, warmth, and then going to that way. What's that like? Or what do you
It was difficult. It was challenging, and halfway through the year, I really had some issues, and but I managed to kind of pull through and came out, did well on my college admissions, and I ended up getting a financial aid from one of the 10 colleges that I got accepted in, and the only one basically. So I didn't really have to make any decisions.
That's good. Okay.
And it was Oberlin College in Ohio, and it's a very liberal school. The thing is, it actually saved me from becoming an engineer, because when I got there, I discovered they don't teach engineering there. It's just a liberal arts school. And so I was supposed to study engineering, just like everybody that comes from the Middle
Right.
East,
No,
from
so I know
India
that.
and Pakistan and all these places.
Yeah.
So I managed not to go to medical school and not to go to
Right.
engineering school. So
It is those two, the doctoral
yeah,
or
exactly. And
well,
back
hadn't
then, that was like the early 70s, like 1970. Um, and at that point, people were not really doing a lot of studying. There was a lot of demonstrations and activism and all kinds of stuff going on. And The students were rebelling against the universities and against the establishment, quote unquote. And very little learning was taking place. So if you really had to want to learn to to learn during those years. It
Okay,
was,
so but you coming from like occupation to
yeah,
this where they're protesting, what did that feel like? I want to get back to Palestine, but I'm curious,
yeah.
was that like like real occupation, and then here they are protesting
Well,
for.
everything was different. Everything was different, really. You're talking to students who've, lived their whole life where they had their own private room and they had all the sports equipment they wanted and they were on sports teams and things like that. And I was coming from a place that none of that really existed. And it was kind of a big cultural adjustment. I didn't really adjust my culture to it, but I just got used to that kind of environment and figured out how to survive in it, which was not easy, really.
So, like, you were old enough to have a lot of memories from Palestine. I want to
Hmm.
hear what that's like growing up in, especially like that time up till.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my memory goes back to when I was like 3 and 4 years old, where I remember we moved houses, 3, 4, 5 times. And Mostly we were in El Bire, uh, towards where the old city, where the old town was. And eventually we moved down what's called Nablus Street. That's the road that goes to Nablus, uh, towards the bottom of it. And then we moved another time next to the military building, which it was called Al Markaz, or also they called it Al Muqata'a. And that's the building eventually that housed Yasser Arafat when he was under siege there. So the house I lived in at that time was only like 2 minutes from there. And it was also near the broadcast towers. They had the big towers that the radio station that was in Jerusalem using to, these were big high antennas that you could see from miles away. Um, and at Right before the war, we moved into the downtown area across the street from the vegetable market in the center of the city.
Wow.
Um, I went to about 5 schools throughout my life in the West Bank, from the elementary school for 4 years, and then we went to another school for 2 years called Madrasa Al-Bir Al-Jadida, the Al-Bir New School, and it was next to the Amari refugee camp. And then eventually I went to the Ramallah prep school, preparatory school. It's not a prep school, they just use that term. Basically, grade 7, 8, and 9. And
Kind of
then,
like what we call junior high here, I
yeah,
think.
junior high. And it was right next to the girls' school of Mar Yusuf, they call it, St. Joseph nun school. It was a
Wow.
school run by nuns for girls. It was right next to our school, but there was like about 4 meter high wall between the two.
Uh-huh. Wow. I
Um,
like hearing about like also the food and how the community is there. Like, I miss it. I only went once, and I just
yeah.
even it's just there's just I know it must have been even different then, but like just the way people come together and share.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit different than in Western countries. Like for instance, in the afternoon, the women would, dress up, and I don't mean dress up fancy, but like put their outside clothes on and then they go visit their friends. They would go and knock on the door, and the people from inside would say, "Oh, ahlan wa sahlan, tfaddalu." This is an unannounced visit, just showing up at somebody's door.
Mhm.
Nobody would ever dream of doing that here.
No, we don't like that. It's so different.
But there it's so it was so common that it's a the people just come in and then they sit out and they go and make some coffee and or tea or bring out some peanuts to eat or some other things. And if they have kids with them, they would fix like a little bit of zait and za'atar sandwich for them, or give them a piece of cheese and bread to eat because they get hungry in the afternoon. And they go on and then eventually they leave. And then you could be sitting in your place. You never know who knocks at the door and they're going to visit with you.
Hmm.
So that was a very common thing, and people actually liked it when people came to visit. And they usually, some people they may not have seen for a while, or and then they would just, it's the social fabric of life there that mostly the women did most of the visitation. The men, they had other opportunities for meeting, which is done at the cafes usually. The men
Okay.
would go to the cafe and each
And they
group had
still
a
do.
certain
That's still
hangout.
common, right?
Huh?
That's still common. That's still kind of the way it is.
Yeah, it's still till now. Yeah, but it's the unannounced visits have kind of become less frequent, I believe, and not as common. Maybe they make appointments now.
Yeah, probably with
Uh,
phones
yeah,
and all that.
yeah. But the men went to the cafes. They played cards. They smoked water pipe, and they played dominoes, or they played all kinds of things, and basically they chit chatted and. Sometimes they sat on the sidewalk, sometimes it was inside when it was cold. And and everybody smoked there. So it's like you go in there and it's like the whole place is full of smoke.
Yeah.
Um,
Remember.
and like you said, that part of it has not really changed. It still goes on.
Mhm.
Um,
What's
and but everybody kind of knew everybody. And it was a very close-knit community. And everybody knew when something happened or somebody died or somebody got married or it was um, pretty open community in terms of knowing what's going on. Now, in the old days, early on, uh, people uh, did not make bread in their homes because you really needed a special oven to make bread, some oven that gets really hot. And yes, they could do it outside, like the way you see them in Gaza, baking bread with
fire?
using something like what we call an upside down wok, like the Asian wok
Mhm.
that they cook inside it. They do stir fry and things like that. But they
Mhm.
use something big like that, but it's flipped over, so it's like a dome on top, and they put it on top of two rocks on the sides, and underneath it they put wood, and they burn wood, and it gets hot, and then they take the dough and they do it like a pizza, basically. They flip it around a few times, and it gets big and thin, and then they just flop it over the wok. Uh, and they wait like 15, 20 seconds, and then they take it and they flip it on the other side, and then it becomes done, and then go on to the next one. So that's how people did it when they had to do it outside, when there was no bread available publicly. Most people, though, they would make the dough. The women would knead the dough and mix the flour and the water and the yeast, and they would make the dough and take it to a public oven, a bakery, if you will, where they could have their dough baked there. So
Uh,
most families did that, and the women would carry it on their head, and on top of it there'll be like a tray made out of straw. It has really nice patterns on it, and it looks really good. And they would go to the bakery there and wait their turn. And you go in there, and then there's a little pit down in the ground, and there's the baker, usually a man, standing there with a big wooden I think it's called like a spatula. It may have another name. And then the woman would come over, and she would cut the dough and makes balls out of it. And the baker would take the balls, and he taps over them, kind of beats them up a little bit, and flip them around like you flip the pizza. And then he puts them on that big wooden spatula. He would put like four or five of them on, and he sticks them inside the oven. The oven was a brick oven, or an oven made out of stone, basically, with a floor that is stone. And on the side of it, there is a kind of an area where they have the wood, and it was a wood burning uh, oven, basically. And they would place the dough on the stone, and and they wait like a couple of minutes, and then they pulls them out and turns them around because the fire is coming from one side only. And then when they're done, it brings them out, and the woman whose bread it is, it'll be waiting with that straw tray, and will receive the baked bread and lines them up in a circle around, and make a couple of circles of them until they're all baked, and then she'll cover them up, and she'll put that on her head and walk home with it. Uh,
wow, wow.
Now, in the meantime, while all this stuff is going on, you get like 15, 20, 30 women sometimes in the room, and they don't just sit there in silence. They chit chat, and they exchange all kinds of news. So that place usually was the focal point for all the information and all the news. It's like the World Wide Web for for the town. It's like, having the Associated Press there or something. So
Okay. I can,
everybody says talks about things that they know, they heard about, and the other people do the same. And then not before long, all the news is exchanged among all the people there. And there's a lot of information that floats around.
yeah, because actually people really care about other families. Like
Yeah.
that's what I do love about that. Everybody knows, not just not like nosy, but like actually cares this person's health, this person's child, it's very nice.
Yeah, in addition to the real news, there'd always be a fair amount of gossip also that takes place.
Mhm.
And that becomes somewhat interesting sometimes. Um, whenever somebody returns from the bakery, people ask them, "Well, what's new? What have you heard?"
Okay. Tell me a little bit about before we come to the States, but I love
Yeah.
hearing like some of the foods of Palestine. How do the
Well, usually people ate the big meal at noontime. It's like lunch was the big meal, and they have a decent breakfast and a small supper. The big meal, the most common dishes are some kind of a stew, like a lamb stew with different vegetables. And depending on the vegetable, there are different ways for making that stew. For instance, and they call it tabich, the stew. Tabich. Tabcha is a single um, instance of tabich.
Okay.
So, like fasulia is a very common
Okay.
tabich.
I love it.
Fasulia is string beans.
Yes.
So they would wash and cut up the string beans in small chunks, They start first with the lamb, and they saute the lamb on the bottom of the pot, and they put like onions with it, and they put spices on it, like they put coriander on it, and salt and pepper and things like that, and a few other things. And then they put water on it, and they boil it for a while. And at some point, they add the string beans to it, and they boil the string beans with the meat in such a way that they both kind of ripen about the same time, become done. And at the end, they get a small frying pan and they put in it some ghee. We call it semne in Arabic.
Mhm.
And then they chop sometimes onions, but mostly they chop some garlic and put it in there. And on the garlic, put some spices like the coriander and a few other things. And they fry that, and so it's sizzling in the little frying pan. And then they put it on top. They pour it on top um, of the stew in the big pot, and they get a little bit of the stew, and they put it in the frying pan to make sure they extract all the flavors that was in the bottom of the frying pans, and then pour that over
Wow.
the stew, and then they stir it all up, and
I love that.
in the meantime they would have been making rice
Yes.
in a different pot. And the rice is pretty straightforward, except not everybody knows how to make perfect rice. So sometimes it's too dry, sometimes it's too sticky. In
Yes.
Arabic, they call it mkhabbas. I mean, in other words, it's muddy,
I'm
that
like
has
so
too much
hungry.
water in it, or dry rice that crunches. That's a bad thing. So
So you're,
as a new housewives, the young women usually have to learn how to make the rice and make it perfect. And after a while, they get the hang of it, and the rice comes out really nice. Sometimes they put a little bit of pasta in the rice, and these are very,
yeah, like
very thin
vermicelli. They brown
vermicelli.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
I
lot
love
of the people do that with the rice. In Arabic, it's called shariye.
Yeah, like hair, right? Like
Yeah,
hair pasta.
and it just adds a bit of flavor to the rice and just gives it some variation. So it's not just white rice.
Right.
Um, and then that's the typical dish
I
and
love
dishes that are done. Besides the fasulya, sometimes they make it with bamia, which is the okra. And instead of the okra, they use peas sometimes. So it will be a peas stew.
that.
And they have something called akub sometimes. Now, some of these things, stews, they add tomato sauce to it. Like with the fasulia, they use tomato sauce on it. So they mix tomatoes with it. So it has a certain amount of tomato in the sauce. Sometimes it's just kind of it stays whitish color. It's just the water from the meat and the meat stock that mixes with the vegetable. They have cauliflower also. With the cauliflower, they fry the cauliflower first,
Love
and
that.
then they cook it with the meat. So it has a great flavor. One of my favorite dishes was the cauliflower stew, and and you eat it with rice, and the cauliflower is saturated with frying oil in it,
Yeah,
and
it's
the
good.
taste of the burnt cauliflower or the roasted cauliflower tastes so good. And
Yeah, there's a lot of frying there.
Yeah, yeah, they fry potatoes also. So
Potatoes.
so these are like run-of-the-mill uh, dishes that people cook. Now, of course, they have other things like spinach. They would do a spinach stew. They do the same thing, except they would get the spinach, wash it, and then chop it, and they will make a spinach stew. Uh, and they have something called mulukhiyya, which is like the spinach, but it's a bit more distinct. And the mulukhiyya tastes really good. And the mulukhiyya, when it's made into stew, it would look like a green soup.
I know. I remember my
Uh,
first time I wouldn't eat it. I
Yeah,
was
and
like,
it does
no,
it doesn't look appetizing to some people, but once you like it, you eat it with bread, you dip your bread in it, and you
I
also
have it
mix it with
here. Like,
rice.
yes, it
Yeah,
is delicious. Like
yeah, it
they
is.
had to tell me what it was. They're like, it's like
Yeah, yeah,
Nicole, it's like chicken soup is how they
yeah.
explained it because they did it with chicken, and
Uh-huh.
it's delicious. It's amazing.
So usually when you come into somebody's house, they're cooking one of these dishes. But
Yeah,
on Fridays, a lot of people would do something special. They would do like a maklube. Maklube is a special dish. What the maklube is they
that's
start
Palestinian,
with
right?
meat
This is
and
our dish.
sauteed meat in the bottom of the pan, and they add to it um, fried cauliflower, fried potatoes, fried eggplant,
Mhm.
uh, and sometimes a few other things. And they cook it some with meat, usually with lamb, but sometimes you can make it with chicken. And I've seen it done with seafood also instead of as the main protein in it. And they put rice on it, and they cook everything together so that the rice will be done at the same time where everything else is done. And I remember my mother had one of the secrets for like how can you tell when it's ready to take it off the fire, and that's the end of it. What she would do is she would pour a little bit of water on the counter. And then she'll take the pot of maklube and puts it over the water. If the water sizzles and spatters, it's ready to go. It means there's no water inside the pot. If
Interesting.
it doesn't make any noise, that means it's wet inside and it needs to cook some more.
Okay.
And those is like one of the secrets that you learned from your mother or from your grandmother. It doesn't come in any recipe book. Um,
Even my dad and my uncle, like they know I've only tried it once and it was okay. The people I made it for are American, so they
mhm.
liked it, but I knew I was like, this isn't real
And
Makluba.
when the dish is ready, they get a flat tray, like a metal tray, and they put it on top of it. But you make sure it's not too wide, because you want to be able to put your thumbs underneath the handles of the pot
Uh-huh.
and the rest of your fingers on top of the tray, and you lift it up and you go like that.
Yep. Yep.
So now the big pot is facing upside down, hence the name upside down. And
Makluba.
then you slowly lift it up, and if you're lucky, the rice and the meat and all that maintains its shape like a mound.
Uh-huh.
And then the best part of the dish is what's left in the pot. In the bottom of the pot, there's usually something stuck in the bottom. So you get a spoon and you pry them loose. And I used to eat that because that's really it has the essence of the flavor of the dish and all the meats and all the vegetables. And the eggplant, when it's fried and cooked, it has the tremendous flavor.
I am so hungry right
Yeah. And you eat that with rice, of course, the rice is on top of the meat and all that. So everybody digs in, and it's usually a very good feast for people.
now. Do you
Um,
prefer lamb or chicken? Or does it?
um, well, it depends. It depends on how it's cooked, So both
Yeah.
both taste really good.
I've
Sometimes you
had
can
both.
mix them, you can mix them together also.
Oh, yeah.
So there are a couple more specialty dishes. I don't know how much you want to spend on this,
I
but
know.
there's a dish called msakhan, and that's chicken that sits on top of bread that's been saturated with olive oil and sumac
Yes.
and pine nuts,
Hmm.
and it has a very strong taste of olive oil.
Hmm.
But the chicken is delicious because it has a lot of spices on it, and you eat it with that bread. That bread sucks up all the flavor of the chicken. And then there's a dish called mensef, and the mensef, that's really known they eat it in a lot of the Bedouins used to eat it in the old days, but everybody does it for special occasions like a wedding or a funeral or something like that. They do it a lot in Jordan. And I've been one time one of my brothers passed away, and the neighbors invited everybody to their house, and they did a mensef. And the mensef is basically big piles of rice, on top of it, big hunks of meat that were cooked in a big pan that has reconstituted milk. The milk gets dried into like rocks. It's called kishik,
Hmm.
and the rocks last for a long time. They take the rocks that are made out of milk, and they rub them in water until they melt them, and they use that to cook the meat in it because that gives it a uh, very strong flavor, and it's a little bit sour, but not too sour. Uh,
That's one of
and
the only dishes I remember from my grandma when I was a
Yeah,
kid. They
yeah.
came over in like 54 and I was when I was little, that's the one dish I really remember my grandma making a lot.
Yeah. And now the way they serve this, they have these tables that are a bit slightly higher than the tables people eat at. They're not like desk height, a little bit. They're like the high tables in restaurants now. And they put the big trays of rice with the meat on top, and they pour additional yogurt syrup or that milk syrup over it. And people stand up and eat it standing. That's the traditional way. And you use your right hand and you keep your left hand behind you when you're eating. And you eat with your hands. So you grab the rice, you make rice balls, and you eat them, and
Okay.
then you break the meat. The meat is overdone usually. It just comes off the bone very easily, and you break meat off the bone and you eat it. And when you finished, somebody walks in with some towels and some um, container that has water in it, and people wash their hands and dry them. And then after that, they bring coffee. Usually, it's a black coffee with no sugar in it, and it's done. It's not black. It's more like a blonde looking uh, coffee. It's roasted in a certain way, especially if the occasion is like a death or somebody died and they're having this post-funeral feast. And then they serve that sometimes in coffee cups, small cups that have no handles on them. So you just hold the cup in your hand, and they only give you a small part in the bottom. It has a massive amount of cardamom in
Mhm.
the coffee. So it's very flavorful. The flavor of the cardamom is overwhelming, but it tastes really good.
Yes, I
And
love it.
then the trick about this is they will keep pouring seconds for you until you shake the cup like that. Once you shake the cup, it is the code for
I'm done.
thank you, I've had enough. And then at that point, they just take the cup from you and put it away. Until
Wow.
then, they gotta keep pouring coffee in your cup.
Oh my gosh. And is it
So,
like, and if they don't drink coffee, I don't know if that's even
well, you would excuse yourself at
a
that point from the beginning. So
like I
you
don't know
just
if anybody doesn't drink coffee there. I don't.
but that coffee is so good. It's
It
really,
is good. It's
you
real
really
coffee.
would not want to miss the coffee. It's really good. And you could just have one and shake the cup and you're done, It's a
I will say, because like I'll buy it because whenever I have it with people, I love it
yeah.
so much. But you know what? I don't, I have it and it's like, to me, it's also something about a special social
Yeah.
drink.
So now this coffee I was talking about is a special brew for occasions, like I said, like a death, funerals and sometimes for the wedding. But the wedding coffee is a bit different. Usually they have sugar in it because it's a happy occasion.
Mm.
And the regular Arabic coffee it's strong. You put a lot of coffee in relation to the water and you boil it and you let it boil for a minute or two. And then you let it sit down, settle down, and then you pour it. And as you pour it in the small cups, the cups have handles in this case. The coffee settles down, so there's a little bit of sediment in the bottom of the coffee, and then you drink it slowly, the same way people drink the espresso in Italy and France and other places. At the end, you can shake, swirl the what's left, the sediment in the bottom, and flip the cup over and put it at the edge of the saucer so that it will drain the liquid out of it. And in about 5 or 6 minutes, it will dry. All the water will run out. And when you look inside it, you see a piece of art. Basically, a lot of patterns and leaves and things and horizons and imagery in the cup. And there are people that claim that they can read that and tell you what's going to happen in your future, usually in very vague terms,
Yeah,
usually things that everybody has some of it,
yeah.
like everybody has a friend, everybody has somebody who's sick, everybody
Have fun.
everybody's going to receive some papers in the mail.
Oh my God.
Everybody
Okay.
has a
I knew
travel
that they read
path.
your fortune.
Sikkat safar, it means like a travel path. I mean, somebody's gonna travel somewhere. I mean, these days everybody travels for work in the morning,
Okay.
but back then, travel was like very, momentous event.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
the but it's always fascinating to see to listen to the people reading the coffee, and they tell you, I see here, and they show it to you. Look there, like see, there is there's a dog in there, and the dog is a friend, and there's somebody who's a friend of you who's really looking after you, who's watching out for you. And sometimes there's a little snake, and that's like an enemy. Somebody's conspiring against you.
Oh my
They
goodness.
don't mean well. You gotta watch out. And then there's a mattress here. The mattress is white. That means you may get sick, but it's gonna be okay.
Oh
You're
wow.
gonna recover and come out really. Yeah. And sometimes you see a bird, and the bird is rizqa. Rizqa means tidings. That means you're gonna get some money or something, or so it's just a whole combination of these things, and they give you like a snapshot of what you may expect in your life, and a lot of times it sounds so real to people. Like they would say something. There is a tall person here, and they say, "Oh, that's so and so."
Oh, yep, exactly. Kind of like a, yeah, fortune telling
It's
a little
more
bit
credible than the people that they go to here in the US,
here.
the fortune tellers. No, this is like when you hear it with the coffee and all that, they have evidence. They show it to you in the cup.
Okay, I like that. Speaking of art, so we got to get back to the museum. I love being in
I know.
Palestine.
Yeah.
No, I could listen to that. We should just make part episode of just hearing about Palestine and culture.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
what I love about the museum.
next time we will talk about the wedding ritual.
Okay.
That'll take a whole hour at least.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, I
How
would love
people
that.
used to get married back, in the earlier days. I mean, now it's changed. It's becoming closer to what we see here, but not quite still. Uh,
Okay.
but that'd be a whole talk by itself, and
Oh, yeah.
a different
Yeah.
episode.
Like because that's what I want here. It's all about
Yeah.
learning, and that's what I learned from the museum. So
Mhm.
you ended up with a camera. I think this leads us into the museum. Is that correct? A camera in your hand?
Yes, yes.
Gift, was it?
So when I was about 10, 12, I had brothers who worked in Kuwait, and most Palestinians in the West Bank had relatives who worked in Kuwait or the Emirates or somewhere. And in the summer, everybody will come home because it gets so hot in those countries. Nobody want to stay there for the summer. And they would spend a month or two in Palestine, particularly in Ramallah. Ramallah was in the hills, and the weather was very mild in the summer. In the afternoon, it gets so cool, people have to wear sweaters sometimes. So it was like you're in somewhere in Switzerland or somewhere. It's just so pretty and the weather is very nice. So one year, one of my brothers brought me a camera as a gift. And I think he might have bought it like for 4 dinars or something like that, which is about, $6 or $7 or something like that. And I had it for a while, and it took me a couple of years to figure out how to use it and all that. And back then, it was a film camera, obviously, and we were using black and white film because the color film was very expensive to buy and also more expensive to process or make prints from it. So I began taking pictures here and there, and good thing right now I have some old pictures I took in the 60s in Ramallah, and some of them took at the airport in Jerusalem. People used to go to the airport to see their relatives leave or and meet them when they come back, and take pictures of them walking to the airplane.
And this is an airport that we is no longer.
Yeah, the Jerusalem airport now, which is in Kalandia. There's a town called Kalandia there, and there's also a refugee camp there called Mukhayyam Kalandia. And there's a film about the airport that some Palestinian director, she made a beautiful film about the Jerusalem airport. And I have a few pictures of one of my brothers walking, to the plane there. And the planes had, four propellers. There were DC-6 and DC-7. DC stands for Douglas. That's what became McDonnell Douglas later. These American companies, and you could see the pictures of
Yeah,
the
my dad
plane.
worked for them.
Yeah. Uh, and you could actually sometimes read the tail number on the plane, and you can research which company owned it and which companies bought it and sold it and things like that over the years. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, the airport had a runway, but there was a road that crossed the runway. So whenever an airplane came to land or take off, they would close the road. They would sound this alarm that sounds like the air raid siren. And then there were two policemen on each side of the road, and they have these pikes that come down. And so they would close the road. The traffic stops. Everybody's waiting until the plane lands or until the plane take off. And that was a memorable thing. You always remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the era there, they routed the road around the runway and around in the middle of the refugee camp. And so the cars would now go around the runway and they won't have to stop when the planes land and take off. But that was only for like 2, 3 years. And in 1967, obviously, there was the Six-Day War, and Israel occupied the whole area. They shut down the airport. Nobody was flying out of Jerusalem airport anymore. Um, anyway, so I took pictures from time to time, and I have pictures of friends, pictures at school, pictures in Jerusalem. And some of them are quite interesting. There's some pictures of me when I was like 6 years old that I had other people take, of course, when I was 6 or 10 or 14. And so it's gone handy. And eventually, when I came to the US, I had a friend in college who was doing a lot of photography. So I got turned on to doing darkroom work and learned how to make prints in the dark room and all that. And then that came in handy when I worked in business because at some point I published a magazine on a trade magazine for about 13 years, and I used to I go do an interview with people in management positions. I'll do the interview, I'll take the pictures, and I'll go process the film, and then make the prints, and then use the prints in the magazine for the interviews. So that proved really very useful, and I spent 13 years doing that. Of course, I was doing other things in addition to that. That wasn't everything I was doing.
Are you still doing pictures?
Yes, yes. So the technology changed, and we went from the film camera to the digital camera, and within the last 15, 20 years, I made sure I had the latest equipment to use, and now I take a lot of pictures, and I do pictures from the air also. I love doing that, looking through the window of airplanes and shooting pictures of the cities down below. So I've taken an iconic picture of Jerusalem from
Mm.
15,000 feet from the window of a British Airways flight from Amman to London. And it happened by accident. I was just sitting in my seat, and all of a sudden I looked outside, said, "Hey, this looks like Jerusalem." I grabbed my camera and took like 12 pictures, each one from a different angle because the plane was moving fast. And we started where the Dome of the Rock was way in front, and at the end it was way behind, and 12 shots in between. So obviously, when you take pictures from the airplane, you have to work on them because there's a lot of haze in the atmosphere. And at the first look, it looks like a terrible picture. But then when you dehaze it, there's a technique called dehazing, which is you remove the haze electronically by changing the contrast and adjusting the lighting and things like that. Then then you can start seeing the details of the picture, and the details are incredible. I mean, you can see from that altitude, you see the Dome of the Rock, and you see the Al-Aqsa Mosque right behind it, and you see the wall around the old city. You see the mountains. You see the different like the Intercontinental Hotel on the Mount of Olives. You see Augusta Victoria. You see the Hebrew University on Mount Scopus, and you see all the Palestinian villages around Jerusalem. You see south of it and north of it. You see the Israeli side of the city. The entire thing. You're looking at like maybe 15 miles worth of things that you're seeing at the same time.
Mm.
Um, it's a fascinating view. It's on exhibit at the museum, by the way.
Oh, good. Okay. Which I can't wait to see. So, tell me, how did you start the Palestine Museum? Like, I'm,
Yeah, it's a long story, but I had worked in business from 1974 on after I graduated from college, and I had five jobs, or maybe three jobs in 5 years, I should say. And then I left, and I decided I'm not going to have jobs anymore because I didn't like any of the jobs, and they were all too restrictive. They were designed for the slowest person in the company. And we had a joke in one of the companies that I work for that when the president dies, they go out and hire a mailboy, and everybody moves up one notch. Uh, it gives you an idea of the amount of bureaucracy and hierarchy that existed in some of these organizations. Anyway, so I did some entrepreneurial work, and I started some couple of businesses. I was into computers, and I was waiting for the personal computers to become a bit robust so we can put business applications on them. And I had the first computer in 1977 when Radio Shack came up with a personal computer, the Model 1, and then they had the Model 2, and then Apple had their computer, and then eventually a lot of companies produce personal computers because a computer chip came out called the Z80. That was a very good, powerful chip. A chip is a CPU at the time, basically, and that was powerful enough to build computers around it. And different companies built computers. So there was like 15, 20 different brands. Each one had its own design, and you were using, floppy disks, but you can't take a disk from one and read it in the other. And eventually, in the early 80s, IBM came up with a computer. It was the least ambitious design of any computer that was on the market. But because it was IBM, everybody bought it, and it became the standard. And instead of having 20 designs now, there was only one design, which is the IBM and IBM compatible computers. And it kind of pushed the innovation down quite a bit, and made the IBM PC as the standard for a long time, for many, many years. So I started a software company to develop software applications in the field that I was working in. I was working in the field of employee benefits, and there was a definite need for technology to administer the benefit programs that were becoming more and more complicated and more costly. And I teamed up with another person, and we spent 2 years developing software. And then we started licensing the software to clients. And my first client was a large company in your neck of the woods. It was called National Medical Enterprises. It was in Santa Monica. Um, and we ended up uh, with a lot of doing a lot of work in terms of developing the software and enhancing it. And we got some other clients, blah, blah, blah. And 25 years later, we had a company with 200 permanent employees and 200 seasonal employees in 5 offices. And we had 85 major clients. Most of them were Fortune 500 and Fortune 200 clients. And in 2010, somebody bought that company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
one of the
I
global
I didn't even know that part about your background. That's
global HR and insurance companies. And I was out of a job on the first day of after the closing. So I did a little bit of work for a while, but then of course I had some money too. I wasn't just out of a job like that. Of course, you sold something.
you did sell it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, our company was very profitable when it was operating, and um, we got approached by a lot of these venture capital types, the ones who
That's a
are
good
from
sign.
Monterey Bay,
Yeah,
Monterey, California.
exactly.
They all have their formulas and things like that, and we had some interesting meetings with some of them.
Now, well, also as a Palestinian, I'm curious, like, did that ever
Yeah.
come up? Was that a thing, like in
Um,
the business world or?
It it came up a lot of times, but you wouldn't have been aware of it because nobody came to you and tell you the reason you didn't get this
Mhm. Right.
client is because you're a Palestinian. Nobody sends you an email telling you that.
Yeah.
But do you know in your heart of hearts that there's certain accounts there was no way on earth you would get them even if you walk backwards on your hands.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Speaking of in my neck of the woods, yes,
Yeah.
I know.
And but it did not bother me because I knew as a Palestinian, we had to be twice as good as everybody else to get a piece of business.
Mhm.
And I managed to make that happen. And so we had software that could do some things that nobody else could come close to.
That's amazing.
It was just, you know, uh, I like developing software because I like to represent the user of the software. So the user of the software is somebody I take as my I have an obligation to the user of the software to give them the best experience
Hmm.
and to look after their interests. That's what my role is. I use some software and it makes me disgusted just to use it because how could anybody do software like that? Like it's terrible. Like I was shipping a package on FedEx this morning and I entered, it says enter the description of the item uh, and I entered it and then it came back and says you must enter the description. I was like, damn it, I already entered it. And the
Okay.
software was so dumb, it had a bug in it. And somebody like FedEx
Right.
allowing a bug to exist like that, I would have fired everybody in the QA and the people who did testing for the software. How could you let something this get by? This is so basic and so easy. So the only way to work around this is they had stored uh, uh, templates for answers. Like in other words, they've had certain combination of.
Right.
So I loaded one of those which loaded successfully. And then I went in there and I typed the same thing afterwards and changed it. And it took it. It got around the bug that they had.
Wow.
Uh, but it is so terrible that
I agree.
people let software out the door without testing it.
But we
And
need you back in software, but also we need Palestine Museum.
yeah, I know.
So tell me, how did we get to you're out of work? And
Yeah. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that there's one common thread among all of this. And that common thread is that you have to strive for excellence, that you have to
Mhm.
do the best thing you can, no matter what the engagement is, whether it's software for somebody, whether is a service for somebody. You have to create the best possible thing that you can create. And that's really the common thread that runs in everything I get involved with.
Yeah.
Uh, to me, mediocrity is not a solution. It's not an option, and it does not exist in my dictionary. Uh, so when I want to do something, I don't want to get bored. So I need to come up with different things and new things every time I do something. I don't like, the only thing I like to repeat without any change is food because I like certain dishes and I can order the same thing. I go to the restaurant every single time and that does not bother me. It bothers other people. But other than that, everything I do has to be different the next time around. We can't just do the same thing because we're not having any value added at that point. So, needless to say, I was looking for things to do. So one of the things I wanted to do, because I love tennis, I was going to create a tennis academy in Palestine and train Palestinian youth to play tennis and compete at international tournaments and carry the Palestinian flag on their sleeves when they're playing at Wimbledon, at the French Open, and all that. That dream has not yet been fulfilled, and I don't know whether it will ever. The closest thing I saw of it was when the Tunisian player, can't remember her name, when she was playing at Wimbledon, and when she won a match, and she was crying, and they asked her,
Oh,
"Shouldn't you
yeah.
be happy about this?" And she said, "How can I be happy and see what's happening in Gaza?" And I was very touched by that. Really, that was
Right.
an amazing moment to see But anyway, I gave up the idea of the tennis academy because it was going to involve a lot of things on the West Bank, and you had to deal with the PA and with all the corruption and all that stuff. It would have never had worked. So later on, I ran into some people who were trying to start a museum in Washington, D.C., and I joined their board and contributed to the project and worked with them for about 6 months. Uh, After 6 months, I really realized that this isn't going to be something I'm going to be happy with, and I really needed to go and do it in a different way. I was not impressed by the vision and the approach and things like that. So I left, and in the middle of 2017, I started working on the museum in Connecticut and came up with a URL. That's the first thing you do these days. You need a domain name, and the domain name was Palestine Museum US. The US was a valid extension that had just come out a couple of years earlier. And then I spent from July till April uh, working on the museum. I took some space in a building that I owned in Connecticut and had a friend of mine who's an architect design the space for the museum. And he came with a beautiful design. And then I contacted a lot of artists and began a conversation with a lot of them. And I brought artwork from these artists on loan, and I brought some artifacts and photography and sculptures and things. And we had a 6,500 square foot space, and I filled up the whole space with artwork and photography and sculptures and artifacts and films and tattoos and we opened the museum on the 22nd of April 2018. And we had 140 people at the opening. We had musicians, we had food, everybody was dressed up. Samia Halabi was the keynote speaker. And we have a memorable speech on video that she did that I will stream at some point for people to see. It was a fantastic speech. And then from there, we went on. So the museum has been operating almost 8 years. It'll be 8 years in April. And we had planned on the museum in Connecticut as being proof of concept and a nucleus for a much larger platform.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought was interrupted in 2020, 2 years into the process, by COVID. And I remember on March 8th of 2020, we had an exhibit about Palestinian women's art on the occasion of the International Women's Day, which is March 8th. A week later, there were 120 people at the museum for that event. But a week later, the governor of Connecticut shut down the state because of COVID.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So we entered into the COVID era. And immediately, a week later, we started operating online, and we created the film series that you see now. So we've been showing films from October 20 till now. Each Saturday, we show a film. So you could imagine how many films we screened since then. And last year, we opened a branch of the museum in Edinburgh, Scotland.
I love this story.
Yeah, in a fantastic spot. In the block that we found the space on for the museum is the art address of Edinburgh. And Edinburgh is a city with a lot of cultural events. And they have a festival in August that's really more like three festivals together. Uh, it's called the big festival is called the IFE, the Edinburgh International Festival, and that's mostly like a performance. It's a theater performance type festival, but they have uh, some art aspects to it and some films and things like that. There's something called the tattoo exhibit, the tattoo festival also. Uh, and there's one called the Fringe. The Fringe was a side bar to the IFE, but the Fringe became a huge festival in its own right. So in Edinburgh, in the month of August, all the hotel rooms are booked. People leave their apartments and rent them
Oh, okay.
uh, for people from out of town. The 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 Marriott Courtyard goes from like 95 pounds a night in the doldrums of January and February to around 550 pounds a night in August. So it kind of gives you an idea. So close to like 1 million people come into town during the summer
Wow.
as a result of these activities. So last year we'd have days at the museum where we've seen 200 visitors that come in one day in a matter of like 8 hours,
That's
which is
wonderful. Wonderful. I saw that.
amazing.
I remember that seeing how many people wanted to support
Hmm.
even more than before.
Yeah. So we we are we have begun the process of expansion that we had planned on from the beginning, but that was delayed by COVID. It set us back like 4 years basically. But we're back now trying to create different branches, and I've developed a model for creating museums that allows us to create a museum, make it operational, uh, and make it self-supporting financially in year one.
Oh,
And it's and that model is working in Edinburgh right now.
nice.
It's a new concept that hasn't been done before. It can be applied to any museum. So we're the next ones that we will be creating are going to follow that model. Hopefully, will be as successful.
Are
Um,
there like featured, pieces at a time, or is it just everything?
one thing I try to do is I don't listen to anybody um, because everybody comes to try to tell you what to do.
You should. I just
Uh,
had a conversation today. Those are my least favorite words. You
yeah.
should.
Uh, and I tell them, look, this is a Palestinian museum, and it has um, certain missions, certain considerations, certain constraints and challenges, and certain things that are not similar to other museums that you're familiar with or the museums that you've been to. Or so we will make this museum work in a way that is good for our mission. That's good for a Palestinian museum. Um, but we're also want it to be a contemporary art museum. Uh, we don't want to be in the little Palestine neighborhood in the big cities. We don't want to be preaching to the choir. We want to be in the prime retail district where the fine art galleries are, where the fine retail establishments are, where people walk around and see, you know, beautiful windows and art that's visible on the street
Yeah,
in the top address in the city. That is the model that we operate on. We want the Palestine Museum to be the icon of the city where we are.
I love that. Wow. And I am dying. I know because of the Zooms and the movies, but tell me about the piece right behind you that I just can't stop looking at.
The piece behind me is by a Gaza artist. His name is Faiz Al-Hassani, and it's called Farewell. It shows a mother with three daughters, and the four of them are holding a dead child. Uh, and there's, I think, underneath, there's also two live children down there. You see two girls on the side and one in the middle. And Faiz al-Hassani has a certain style that you see in the painting there. And he has many paintings. And during the invasion of Gaza and the genocide, I was looking at his Instagram, not Instagram, sorry, Messenger page, and by accident I dialed his phone. And to my surprise, he answered. But I noticed his voice was very weak, and I said, he said, "Hi, Faisal, how are you?" And I said, "Oh my God, sorry I didn't mean to call you, disrupt you. I hope you're okay." He says, "Well, I've been injured in a bombing, and I'm in the Khan Yunis hospital." And I said, "Oh my God, I hope you do better." He says, "Well, I hope to see what happens." And so I kept track of him, and I noticed eventually he needed more treatment, and he was evacuated from Gaza on medical for medical reasons, and he is now living in Australia with one of his daughters who lives there. So I was happy to see that he's safe, and he continues to post some things in Facebook from time to time. A lot of it is some of his prior works. This piece was part of an exhibit we held here, and when the exhibit was over, he asked me to ship it to Australia, and I said, "Yeah," and we prepared it and shipped it there. But he said, "You can keep one of the pieces for the museum as a gift from me." And I said, "Wow, that's very generous of you." And so that this is the piece that we kept. And I'm so glad that we kept this piece because it's so powerful. And people during the film discussions are always want to know what is that piece
Yeah.
and where is it from and all that. So uh,
It's gorgeous, but yeah,
yeah,
it feels we all know we've seen almost that image,
yeah.
every day online.
It's Faiz Al-Hassani. Unfortunately, he had two sons who were martyred in Gaza. Um, uh, one before October 7, I think, and maybe one after. I'm not sure exactly. But I intend to give him a call sometime soon and catch up and see how things are going in Australia there.
Yeah.
So,
Any other artists from Gaza, like in the,
oh, of course, yeah, we have several artists exhibited at the museum here, and some in outside of here. We had some work from artists in Ireland. We don't have a museum there, and we had an exhibit last fall there. So there are remnants from the exhibit there that we will be placing soon. And we have some artwork in Edinburgh. But one of the better known artists is Muhammad Al-Hajj. He's from Gaza. He is in Gaza now. He's one of the major artists who remained in Gaza. And we've seen some other artists that managed to get out of Gaza, to get evacuated somewhere. But he is still there, and he continues to produce work despite the lack of material. It's not easy to buy canvas there to find it. Colors are hard to come by also, so it's not an easy thing to be an artist in Gaza. Um,
Yes, and I
uh,
met Khalil Khalidi
yeah.
at the
Hmm.
museum, and
Yeah.
yeah, his
We,
artwork. And I
yeah.
checked in on him myself because, yeah, just wondering how everybody is.
Yeah. I've dealt with a couple other artists who left Gaza also at some point. One was Maisara Baroud, and we exhibited 120 sketches for him in 2024 in Venice. Um, we also had artwork for Bayan Abu Nahla. Uh, I really like her artwork. We purchased some of her pieces that she did during the genocide. She is out now. I used some of her artwork in an exhibit in Bologna last June, last year. And actually, I managed to meet her. She came to Bologna and she came to the exhibit that we had. We had her artwork in, which was very nice to meet her. And we had some pictures taken.
So what
And
is the I can only imagine it's just people come in and there's got to be a lot of tears, a lot of emotion.
yeah, yeah.
Is it?
Especially in Edinburgh, the Scottish people are amazing. They're so big supporters of Palestine, and I've had old ladies in their 80s come and visit, and they cried on my shoulders, more than several occasions, and just people are so emotional about Palestine, and they are from Scotland. They're not Arabs, they're not Muslims, they're not Palestinian, but they are people, everyday type person from Scotland. They are very, very upset about what's happening to the Palestinians, and we get tremendous support in Scotland, as well as we would have if in other places like in Ireland as well.
Yes, definitely.
But
I
it's very, very heartwarming to see somebody walks in there. You don't know them from anywhere, and they're not Palestinian Arabs or anything. And they would just open their wallet and donate 50 pounds in a donation box. I've seen that happen so many times that I could tell you it's so touching, and the people are trying to help us tell the story and bring out the Palestinian narrative and let the world know that we exist. Uh,
yeah,
uh, and uh,
so much needed.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, as you know, um, the corporate media um, has done a terrible job reporting the events in Gaza, and they still don't uh, admit or accept the fact that there's a genocide in Gaza. I mean, those people must be living under a
Oh,
rock or
I live
something.
in an area where it doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Western media has demonized Palestinians for a long time and had cast us in a negative light. The media is more dangerous than the 2,000-pound bombs because the media normalizes violence against Palestinians. They normalizes the genocide. They normalize the genocide, and they make it possible for Israel to kill Palestinians without any consequences because they have brainwashed the audiences. Uh,
Oh, 100%. Well, that's how this started, was because I've shared with you. I grew up here, California girl, and I didn't never said I was Palestinian. And I didn't understand why until about 14 years ago. I was having a conversation with my uncle, realizing we come from like the most amazing place. I was getting ready to change my name for a Hollywood name, an easy to say name, and as he was telling me a story, because we have our family, the stories are, I'm like, wow, my dad grew up They would walk around the old city, like, and his school was right there. And like, when the king was shot and they were right there in the city and had to run and just so much history. And
Yeah. I
it
mean,
dawned on me, it was growing up with the media. Even as a child,
yeah,
I
the
saw,
media till now, they are so biased.
yes,
For instance, when something happened to an Israeli,
yep,
they
it's,
turned the world upside down about it. But when
yep,
like 500 Palestinian civilians get killed in 1 week, it's nothing. You never hear
silent.
anything about it, and it's like as if we are not human. But somehow the Israelis are, one or two or three. I mean, there was the most striking thing that I saw once is, that they was a story about a few Israelis who could not sleep because they were fighting in Gaza for the army, and they were driving like armored vehicles and tanks, and a couple of them ran over Palestinians who were alive. And after that, they couldn't sleep because of their mind is torturing them. Uh, and they were like going to a great length in describing how bad a situation that was and how they are suffering. But
I've
not a
heard,
single one of the journalists said anything about the Palestinians who got killed under the tracks of the tanks and the armored vehicles that they were driving. So, it's like, who's the victim here?
I know. I learned, but because actually, I was actually online with a class in Egypt with October 7th,
Hmm.
and I was parroting our news here, and my teacher said Nicole, and she had to explain the truth and what really happened. And that's when I think I was like, oh, so even me, who kind of already knows about the occupation, I've been there, I've seen it, I fell for the media again. And that's when I just kind of went, wait, I have to relearn everything. So, I mean, for past 2 years, 2+ years, I've been studying and learning and talking to people like you. And I had Miko Pellet and so many, people that have been there, the stories. Like I've been on a journey for the real story. So I thought, I have, for whoever listens, like, this is it. You need to hear our stories. Even I, who was in it, didn't even know the truth. So it's the media. But thankfully, so many people, and they're pissed because we all have been lied to. I'm like studying in school right now, learning political science. I'm learning about even the Chicano history here in America. And we all see how manipulated, who owns our textbooks, who wrote our textbooks.
Hmm.
Um, thank God the world's waking up. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a long time to get to the point where we see a media that is fair and treat people equally. That's going to be a long time in coming. But yeah, we are determined to tell our own story and to tell our narrative, and that's what the mission of the Palestine Museum is, to tell a Palestinian story to a global audience through the arts. We don't want to be the helpless victims. We are, yes, we are victims to the genocide. We are victims of the violence against Palestinians, against civilians and children and all that. But we are also determined to persevere and to stand on sumud against that and against any attempt at erasing us or writing us off. And we demand to be heard, and we demand to have our right of self-determination and have the right to govern ourselves. But most importantly, we demand the right to tell our own story. We don't need others telling our story for us.
No.
Thank you, we are well capable of doing that. And
Yes. Oh my God,
we,
the amount of films. brilliant films that you show. They're like the most incredible because they're truthful. I can't even watch fluff anymore. It's like I have just become like this for me it's Saturday morning is it's just educational, it's real. They're so amazingly done. It's just unbelievable. Stuff that we've never heard of and it should be seen. And I've learned so much.
Well, thank you. Anyway, I think we've,
I'm gonna wrap it up, but thank you for every I know it's like I could just sit and talk and talk and talk. But anyway,
yeah,
so much history. I want to thank you for your time, all your time. It's been amazing, and especially for all you do.
yeah.
Anything exciting that you can share that we're gonna look forward
Well,
to?
we'll have some new announcements in late towards the end of February. Just stay tuned. We'll be announcing some big thing that we're doing, but we can't talk about it now.
Okay. Keep us
But
hanging.
we can have another conversation at the end of February.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Faisal. I'll let you get on with your day. This has been amazing. And I
Thank
will
you.
see you Saturday on at the movie.
Yes. I still haven't sent out the mailing about the movie for the weekend, so I'm a little
Probably
behind.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, we one time I sent it on Saturday morning and we had 250
We're
households signing
waiting.
up.
It's on our calendars.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a
It's
lot
like
going.
a TV show. I mean, you don't need to do advertising too far ahead of
It
time.
really doesn't matter. We're all there
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
it's always
exactly.
amazing. We don't need to know.
Yeah.
So, all
And
right. Well,
there are
thank
all
you.
kinds of stories that come out from the people that watch it. I'll tell you one that touched me really a great deal recently. But I know we're out of time probably. So thank you so
Got
much
time for that. If you want to share that story, because I do want to say, like, it's amazing.
well, it
People
was
all over the
there was
world.
somebody that watched the films all the time, and she her father was, I believe, like a Holocaust survivor, and he passed away a few years ago and left her some money, like $50,000 or whatever, and she was down to like the last 2,000 of it in the bank account. And after listening to some of our shows and the movies and all that, she decided to, in honor of her father, to donate those $2,000 to the museum. And I know she could use the money really, uh, but and she wrote a poem uh, about us and about the museum and what they're doing and about Palestine and all that. And it was incredible. I just could not believe that how somebody would take the last $2,000 and donate them for the museum. It's unbelievable.
I think Gaza has changed the world.
Yeah,
What's happening now, I think, has changed the world and people. I mean, for some of us for the best and some of us for the worst. But it's really beautiful to see the humanity that,
yeah.
especially like on your Saturday groups, the
Mhm.
passionate people from around the world. That's what I love. Like,
40 countries usually.
yeah, it's really fun. So I share it all the time because it's really something
Mhm.
special. And it's not just the learning and the incredible films, it is
It's
for
the
me,
community, the
it's
sense
a
of
support
community.
group when you feel
Yeah.
like you're alone. And like me, I'm in an area, it's, I could go crazy with the narrative and I got the other flags and that's my neighborhood. But I come there and it's like, oh, thank God, people who can see the truth.
Yeah.
It's a relief. But anyway, so I'll see you Saturday. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna be there.
All right. See you Saturday. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. I am definitely going to be talking to Faisal more. We talk for hours, and he's just a wealth of information and events. And yes, go to Palestine Museum US, sign up for the newsletter. Please support this incredible organization. It's a lot of work to preserve the Palestinian history and culture and telling their stories. So it's just an incredible organization. And go visit if you're around. Follow them on social media. And also, thank you for listening. Please share it. Please like it. And yeah, we are here. Remember, nobody's free until we're all free. So free Palestine.